All right. Hello, everyone. I am the Siege Captain, and today we will be building history. Welcome in, everyone. We're going to begin doing the actual work in just a couple minutes, but before we start, I'm going to give a quick lecture on what we are actually doing. Now, if you look here, I have a ballista hanging on my wall. Right here is the torsion bundle. You can see these ropes wrapped over the top here. What I didn't do on this ballista was linear pre-torsion. So the torsion bundles are all twisted up. And this brings us to our first slide here. What we want is high linear pre-torsion. The reason for this is we have a high geometric advantage. As the arm begins to rotate and the ropes resist the rotational energy, we get a lot more efficient energy transfer as the rope needs to stretch less if it is not in this chevron shape. As the ropes get twisted, they get bent over on themselves and can begin stacking, resisting twisting motion, and results in poor energy transfer. Not an efficient machine. Efficiency is the name of the game. That brings us to our next slide. The next point we have here is the size of cord that we are using. If we were to use small cord, as seen here, let me get a close-up. We would get a lot of cord for the volume inside the washer, but the cons is it would result in a lot of length of material and would be next to impossible to haul all that cord through the strand or through the washer each time. If we use large cords, we have a lot of empty volume. This would be easy to string up and not take a lot of time, but a lot of empty volume means the least amount of power. So, of course, we find the golden ratio as prescribed by the ancients. Let me read some words. Here we have from Philon's Bellopecia. Make the diameter of the thickness of the cord Make the diameter of the thickness of the cord 1/4 dactyl minus 1/12 dactyl. And everybody knows what a dactyl is, I'm sure. But it is also based upon the diameter of the washer we're using. That's what D is supposed to be, not dactyl. So 1/4 D minus 1/12 D. Given the size of the washer of the Cheiroballistra, we end with a 3/16 cord, about 4 millimeters, which I have right here. This is our cord material. This is our cord material, and we're going to need a lot of it. How much? That is yet to be seen. But to begin, we need to splice the cord together. Before we fully begin, I will answer some questions in chat. Let's see if there are any questions to begin with. Hello, everyone. Are you using sinew? No, that is not in the budget. Sinew is extremely expensive. I am going to be making a video soon enough, though, about the ancients might have used sheep's cord, horsehair cord, which is mentioned by the ancients, but wool cord soaked in oil, resin, and wax might be more powerful than sinew, given the fact that it can stretch a lot further without sustaining any damage. I'll leave that for the video. It's going to be a great video. My kids want to know why your shop is so messy. Well, because unlike your father, I actually work out in my shop and do things. I will be uploading this as a VOD, and I'll probably be cutting it up into sections. I'm also going to give this lecture on linear pre-torsion in a lot more professional of a manner. I have a microphone on the back of the wrench, and it is vice grips. Three-strand twisted is the best form of nylon rope to use. That is what I have here. Do not use braided rope. It will not work. Okay. Let us begin splicing the cord together. I do not have medical vice grips. I spliced a cord together 2 nights ago, so let's hope I can do it again tonight. Hopefully the microphone isn't too far away for you guys to hear. So here we have our 3-cord nylon. I have them marked because I don't have different colors, with a marking at the top, middle, and no marking. This will represent our 3 strands. We have the left, the right, and the center. We then size the loop that we want, which I have predetermined with this Sharpie mark here. And I'm going to attempt to splice these together. So on this top rope here, we open that one up and we put the center one through. Like so. And then the one next to it, let's see if I can do this a little closer here. The left one goes through. Hey. Oh, I'm getting this messed up. Oh, there we go. And then the invisible one on the bottom, that's like really hard to show, is where the 3rd cord goes through. And there we have our first splice. And then we go to the next one. So through the top twist goes our middle. Knots may be complex, but I'm an Eagle Scout, so I've got this covered. What's the difference between locking jaw pliers and vice grips? Is it like a brand thing? Have I failed because I've been marketed to? Yes, an Eagle Scout, and I got 2 palms, the bronze and gold palm. That was so many years ago, but Boy Scouts was the best thing I did as a kid, I feel. Besides, of course, the bowling league. The palms are for getting extra merit badges after you were Eagle Scout, so just like continuing on with scouting even after you've achieved the highest rank. And then there's also some other requirements like public service or whatever. Which, a story I always tell, the Boy Scout camp we would go to, just to make sure that there was always enough public service work to be done, they had a pile of rocks, and they would be like, hey, load up this pile of rocks in this wheelbarrow and take about 5 loads of rocks down to the road. And then once all those rocks were brought down to the road, they would say, hey, there's some rocks down on the road. Load them up into a wheelbarrow and bring them up here. And the cycle would just continue for infinity so that there was always service projects to do. I lost my 3rd braid. Oh, right there. It's right there. Found it. Yeah, 3-strand twisted rope. You don't want to use braided because when you're doing a ton of I did something wrong. A ton of linear pretension, the braid does not play well with trying to pretension. All right, we should only have to do 1 more according to my calculations. Then we can tie it off and begin the ballista work. Yeah, if you don't use 3-strand twist, it's a sign that you're an amateur. A siege weapon merit badge? Now we're getting somewhere. You could have like the same requirements like when you're like the rifle and shotgun shooting merit badge where you have to hit a certain number of targets. Wasn't the rifle like you have to hit within the size of a dime 10 times? Or is that just like something separate, like the dime club? I think shotgun was like you have to trap shoot 26 out of 50 clay pigeons. So there you go. There's a 3-stranded braided rope. Yeah, Andy's workshop video, what a beautiful machine. He was like this close to just making something almost perfect. And I actually sent him a private message. He replied to my first one, then didn't reply to my second one, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure not many people look at their messages on YouTube. I am guilty of that. So you can see my loop is holding very well. Hopefully it holds up to ballista forces. So I'm just going to take these ends and tie an abomination of a knot kind of like so. Pull it tight. I'm going to put a dab of super glue on the knot just to ensure it doesn't go anywhere. That Andy's Workshop craftsmanship, though, I'm jealous of that. I need to work on my attention to detail. We got the Gorilla Glue. All right, I'm gonna move you guys over, and then I'm gonna move the stretcher over, and we will load in the field frame. So just bear with me for a second. Here is my stretcher. Just beautiful, I know. Bask in its glory. Here is my field frame, my washers, and my washer bars. Let me show off these components here. So this is a Cheiroballistra washer. Ooh, let me focus. There we go. So the diameter of this hole going through here is what all our measurements are based off of according to the calibration formula given to us around 300 BC. We're still using it to this day. And then this crossbar here sits in it like that. And that's what we wrap the ropes over. It is A2 tool steel, I believe, so high carbon or low carbon. I don't remember. Is it? It's not A2 tool steel, is it? Like A26? What's the tool steel? That would be high carbon, because because high carbon's super hard. Am I getting this backwards? I sound like an idiot now. I think it's low carbon because it's pretty soft. I'm going to set you guys... Where's my chair? I have to grab something inside. I will be right back. I thought the vice grip microphone would be clever, but I'm just going to magnetic it to myself. Yes, it is pretty soft steel. It does bend nicely. So let's get this loaded in the stretcher here. With the assistance of these nice pine square pieces, rectangular pieces. I'll bring you guys in closer. A tungsten ballista would be a sight to behold. It'd be very heavy, and since the Cheiroballistra is a single-manned ballista, I don't think tungsten would be the material of choice for that one. This is a little bit fiddly of a process. And there we go. We are loaded up. The super glue did not dry yet. I didn't put my accelerant on it like an idiot. I'm going to cut these loose ends, and then we're going to burn them. I'm going to get my fingers super glued to the rope like 6 times. Keep getting my fingers glued to the rope. What's your guys' favorite siege weapons? And I better not see any trebuchets in chat. So there we go, there's our loop. So we begin the stretching process. Someone start a timer. What time is it? 5:57. Okay. Back you guys up just a little bit. All right. The first loop is lowered in. Through the washer, and we put the rounded part of the lever in our loop. And then we can pull this up like so. I'm just going to clamp this off. Okay, that's not going to clamp it. Oh no. Can one of you guys hold this for me? If it falls, it falls. I gotta go grab a clamp. All right, the first string has been added. Yeah, there's a lot of flies out here. Does anyone know of a stretcher being used on video? A manuballista? The whole etymology of ballistae is kind of confusing. So a manuballista and a Cheiroballistra could be considered the same thing. But that's a great answer. Big swinging battering rams. I do like big swinging things. Let me tell you what. It's like Grond from Lord of the Rings. You know what I did forget to do? I forgot to modify my Amazon Basic locking jaw pliers. These pliers have got sharp teeth on them, and you don't want that with rope. So I've got to file those down right quick. Wait. How many pounds of draw weight, or how heavy will it be, are you asking? Draw weight, on my first go around, my first torsion, it's probably going to have pretty low draw weight because I'm going to just see if my frame can hold up just fine. I'll answer the question and then I'll start filing. So my first torsion, I'm only going to go up to about 250 hertz. So the draw weight will probably be 60 to 80 pounds of draw weight. But given that the Cheiroballistra's arms swing on the inside of the frame, the draw length will be immense. The arms were going to rotate well over 80 degrees. So the force acting, the bowstring acting upon the projectile is going to be a lot longer than your average ballista, giving it a lot more power. I meant to do this off camera. I'm sorry, everybody. Wrapping tape around the jaw, given the force on the strings, is a recipe for your strings to slip through, but not a bad idea. That looks much, wow, that looks much better. Once the spring cord is wrapped through and pre-tensioned, you can adjust it by turning the washer. So I won't have to do this every single time, but if I ever want to change spring cord material, I will have to. Which I plan in the future to test many types of spring cord, including like horsehair, wool, if I ever have the means, sinew. So yeah, I will have to do this many a times. Okay, I gotta move my laptop so I can read the chat. We're gonna enter stringing mode so I can be a lot more responsive. So if you guys have any questions about siege weapons or just the siege captain in general, now is a perfect time. Nothing is off topic. All right. So I'm gonna get this rope coiled or make sure it's not tangled. £420 draw. Yeah, when I build a ballista mounted on a stand, I also know a guy that has a leaf spring off of a pick-em-up truck that I was going to turn into some mega crossbow, but then I went a more historically accurate route. How far did the Romans snipe? The answer is actually, it's insane. This one university in Europe, I can't remember what country it was, they actually had accuracy all the way out to 150 meters without a trained operator. And that was accuracy. They were accurately hitting the target at that range. The maximum range they achieved with a weapon like this was well in excess 400 meters. And one that was mounted on a stand with a washer about twice the size as the one I'm building was hitting out to 800 meters, and the grouping was less than 20 feet apart. So the accuracy on these things is actually insane. A pretty darn flat line if they're claiming accuracy. Sadly, so many people that have done historical recreations of these and like tested them, I don't know why, they just like, they didn't record themselves, and then the people that did, they only uploaded it to like random forums on the internet, so then the link breaks over time and then you can't see anything. So it's just a horrible situation. The amount of broken links when you're researching siege weapons is devastating, to tell the truth. All right. Once you get the first one started, I hear it's a lot less finicky. Okay. Get the washer bars, or the lever bars, in line with one another. Oh, is this one not gonna... What? That's frustrating. Why doesn't it fit? Hold up. Siege Captain's a dummy. That one will fit. Apparently I didn't file this one. Could have swore I filed all 3 or all 4. Guess I only filed 3. The maximum draw weight, I don't think that's ever been really found, tell you the truth. There's a guy if you search up the Greek and Roman artillery wiki, a guy by the name Samuli Sapanin. I had him on my YouTube channel. He is the one I'm following closely. And he did a lot of measuring of the force of the projectile. And everything he had was in like meters per second. I don't think he ever really measured the draw weight of his weapon though. Because people mostly care about how much force is on the projectile. And as I was mentioning before, a Cheiroballistra with its in-swinging arms has the huge advantage of force acting on the projectile. The amount of time that the string is acting on the projectile. But with that huge draw weight, your spring cord material needs to be able to handle stretching that far, and that's the trick. All right, so there's my winch. I'll use my locking pliers. Gotta loosen them. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that just draw weight number. I'll definitely be measuring the draw weight of my Cheiroballistra as I increase the force. But right now, I don't have a good answer for you. The answer is every time someone new tests and builds these weapons, the results are always more powerful than you think. And the more you fine tune them, the more you test them, we keep finding stronger and stronger machines with historically accurate methods. Well, as historically accurate as historical accuracy can be. All right, the first winching can begin. This is so exciting. So I have a tuner app on another phone that I gotta get set up quick. Hold this in place here. I got to figure out a place I can set this where you guys can see it and I can see it as well. Prop it up against my homemade handheld ballista. Oops. Oh, I don't think the numbers are small. But anyway, I'm going to be using a tuner to pluck it. We're going to go for 250 hertz, which is low power, but it is a good place to start. So that's 290 there. Romans didn't care about the numbers, cared about how strong it was. So I'd say they had some formulas, but they also tested. Yes, exactly. Said hi. Hello, Naughty Frog. Thanks for the support. You've always been a real one. So we insert that. Catches the winch. I got 2 untwisted. Oh, probably because of that. Huh. Okay, that's 290. Yeah, if only more writing survived from the Romans about siege engines. I don't know why they didn't write more about them. It's the most fascinating thing they ever did, was invent iron frame siege weapons. Okay, here we go. Pluck the string. Okay, we lost some tension. There we go. Insert our stop. Okay. 1 cord done. Only 1 million more. Oh, I forgot to clamp it. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I have to twist the washers so that they're facing me. So that I can get my locking pliers on it. Okay. And then we take this metal bar. Oh. Oh, hello, I'm doing the tensioning a torsion spring for a Roman ballista. It is called a Cheiroballistra, and the Cheiroballistra only survives to us from a corrupted manuscript, and the earliest copy of that manuscript that we know of dates to the 10th century AD, but the original was probably written around 60 to 150 AD. If you see in the title of the stream, Tuning My Cheiroballistra, you can search up the Wikipedia page and read about it. Fun fact, I actually wrote the Wikipedia page, so kind of my crowning achievement until this thing actually shoots. And there we go. The first one is done. Took me 24 minutes. On to the next one. So let me put this clamp on it. To prevent the pliers from nosediving. My spring is tuned to 277 hertz. It's exactly what we wanted. Well, I wanted 270, but 7 extra hertz, cannot complain. So now we have to haul this cord all back through it. What do you guys want to see on the future of this channel? I have many ideas, but I like to hear from you guys because I don't know what other people are interested in. What can I do better? What could I do worse? What do you like? What do you hate about my channel? A Halloween pumpkin shooting video. That's a great idea. Once my Cheiroballistra is fully operational. Distance testing. Oh yes. That's going to be the hard one. I don't know where to go to shoot this thing with, depending how far it shoots. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a place with enough land. If I was Roman, and if I had to tune it, you bet I'd leave a cord inside the skeins forever. Yeah, that's my plan. I think I'm gonna just rebuild field frames every time so that I don't have to unstring anything. So then we slip this through. Oh, I forgot to mention, I made the tip of this cord here, focus, thank you, kind of like a needle. I super glued it, saturated the rope with super glue, and made it sharp. It'll make it a lot easier to work with in the future. Yeah, every balloon I've built to this point, I did not linear pre-tension. I did not pre-tension the cord in any way. Let me move my meme that I made down here for your viewing pleasure. So then you can pop the winch out. I have the rope coming through. And then we have to flip the stretcher around. Oy. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I suppose it is just the first wrap. Makes sense. What's your guys' opinion on people like Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great? Any of you guys listen to Hardcore History? Dan Carlin's latest series on Alexander the Great? That has me on the edge of my seat. Because like I know the story of Alexander the Great, but the details of it really bring it to life in a new way. Like he was talking about on the latest episode of it, they found the battlefield where Alexander the Great faced off against the great king of Persia, of Parthia, and they can use the archaeological findings to find exactly where the battle happened, of course, but Alexander the Great was such a mad lad that he had to be leading every single melee. Oh, what did I do? I'm an idiot. So Alexander the Great made a beeline in the fight to attack the king of Persia. And so the Persian bodyguards and Alexander's royal guards themselves had to protect and fight off against each other. And it took Alexander the Great like hours to get to him. So the amount of projectiles and dead men around the chariot of the great king was immense. So they can find exactly where the great king was making his stand against Alexander the Great that many years ago. That's the coolest thing I have ever heard in my life. He's also talking about on it how in between every single major combat, Alexander the Great had like FOMO about all the small skirmishes and like no-name towns. And so Alexander the Great wanted to participate in every single fight. So he's just accumulating all this damage. Like you see like professional sports ball players that, you know, get like CTE over time from all the hits. Well, Alexander the Great was participating in every combat ever. Imagine how messed up that guy is. Okay, so that's string number 2 to the right frequency. Then we can release my pliers. Hopefully everything doesn't break, okay. And then we can get this, and we can clamp off the next one. The time period when Alexander the Great was doing his stuff is also kind of like one of my favorite, I gotta stop these cords from stacking on one another. Slide this over, position it, there we go. There we go. They gotta just like try everything when it came towards siege weapons. Like Alexander the Great was like the first person to pioneer his army, I should say, his engineers. He has very famous engineers in his army, and they were like the pioneers of the siege. Kind of goated, if you ask me. I don't like all the modern takes of history that try to make like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar just seem like senseless butcherers. Like, you can't judge people by the modern day sensibilities. Like, in that time period, if anyone had that power and that ability, they would have done that conquering for the good of their own people. And then like the empires they built with them, I feel were a net positive for the world, but what do I know? I'm just some guy in his garage that's a fanboy. Is there a Total War game for Alexander the Great time period? Or I guess Rome 2 kind of goes back there, but it's very Rome focused. Because you get to play as the successor kingdoms if you want. All right. My tuner is not picking up the cord. That one's at 263. A little bit lower than the last one, but not too bad. Good job, Siege Captain. Thank you, Siege Captain. What if the Romans used the Manuballista, but at a weight of 11 pounds standard as the main infantry weapon? That would have been crazy. Yeah, like an ancient service rifle. I don't know why, but the first thing I thought of is probably bad to think of, the scene in Full Metal Jacket where Private Pyle does himself in. Someone doing that with a Manuballista. Why is this flopping so much? What is happening here? I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't fall. People think like modern service rifles are temperamental and prone to jamming. Wait until they see what happens to their torsion springs on the daily. Yeah, not much is written about how the Cheiroballistra was, if it even was, used in war. Like, how did the Romans deploy it? And then there's the whole controversy if it was mounted on a stand or if it was carried by hand. And all that. this just goes to show, like, if you think you're not doing something, if you think you're doing something that could either even remotely be interesting to future people, you should be writing that down. I know, like, also, what will you use as the string? What will you use as the string? Silk would be best. Would silk be the best spring material? I don't know. How far can silk stretch before it breaks? And why do you think silk would be the best? All the ancient sources mention sinew being the best. What inclines you to say silk? For the string, you know, silk stretches less, so the arrow gets all the power. Oh, see, that's a very interesting thing about ballistae in general. Since the arms of the ballistae travel so far on an in-swinging configuration, have you seen an in-swinging configuration? You actually need the spring cord to have the ability to stretch actually quite a bit because of how far the arms are going to travel. So you need the inherent stretch. That's why there's more and more speculation about if sinew was the best for like outswinging ballistae, because it did have the least amount of stretch of like their ancient material. So when you have that short arm travel, you want very little stretch. But once you switch to the in-swinging configuration, with how much the arms are traveling, the rope needs to be able to stretch, or you're going to be snapping your torsion springs. Or you're not going to be able to reach full draw, which then you get into the whole time acting on the projectile versus a quick, angry jerk. Which is all very interesting. Don't get me wrong. And I want, like, I wish I could do this full time. You know, I have to go spend 40 plus hours a week at my silly job. Imagine if I could just be the engineer of the Royal Imperial Arsenal. There we go, that's a good clamp. In Andy's workshop, video of his Manuballista has a reload speed of 10 seconds, which is very fast for a 300-pound beast. And he didn't do the reload erratically, he just did a normal pace, which is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. Julius Caesar obviously wrote his own book on warfare, his war in Gaul, the Gallic Wars, and him talking about like the use of ballistae is like the most descriptive use of ballistae we have, and like the stories he tells about that. Also Josephus, the Jewish wars. God, some of the descriptions are just ridiculous. There's like one of the most cited ones is by Julius Caesar. And he talks about there was like a gate with like a portcullis on it, and the Gauls were trying to lower the portcullis or just close the gate, one of the two, and they had to go operate the mechanism on top of the walls. And one Gaul goes up to it and he gets shot by a ballista. And then another one goes up to it and gets shot by a ballista. And then Julius Caesar says a third by the same effect, just shot after shot after shot. Pure accuracy that quickly to stop the Gauls from operating that mechanism. And you have to like, you know, he doesn't say the distance he's at, but you have to think like you're not going to set your artillery up within slinger or archer range. So he's easily 150, 200 meters out. And they're just killing Gauls shot after shot after shot. 0 misses. That's insane at that range. And then Josephus talks about when Rome was under siege, one of the ballistae on the wall, someone tried climbing a tree next to the walls of Rome to get height advantage and shoot into the walls. And the ballistae bolt pinned the guy to the tree for the rest of the siege. Like he was pinned to that tree for days and days on end. These machines are no joke. And I mean, like, I'm building a handheld one, so we'll see if I can pin a guy to a tree. I doubt it, but brother, like, imagine you're just some, like, I know barbarian isn't the proper term anymore, but you're just some barbarian doing your business, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna mess with the Romans today. And then they show up with, yeah, like a breech loading rifle. You could use sinew for the string. I don't mean the spring. Oh, yes, the bowstring. See, reading the comment explains the comment, but I barely know how to read, so I'm getting my cord material all meshed up. Yes, for the bowstring, sinew is very expensive. I don't have a ton of disposable income at the moment. So now I guess is the time I ask for donations. I don't have it linked anywhere, but you can find it on my latest video. I have a Ko-Fi if you want to support me. All proceeds are going to the Cheiroballistra testing, which would be spring cord material. I want to get Roman armor to shoot. We already reached our goal to get ballistics gel, so we're going to have that at least. But the more you guys are willing to give, the more testing I can do. And so for the bowstring, I'm just going to be using modern materials like Dacron, what they use for bowstrings now. Kind of lame, I know. I want to be historically accurate too, but I gotta focus on the finances of the real world, sadly. Oop, I forgot to feed this through. Someday, once I'm raking in those YouTube bucks, I'm sure I will be with this niche YouTube channel, but someday when I am, I will be building siege weapons full time and doing everything under the sun. And I mean everything. I have lists and lists of things I want to do. Buckets. The time, you know, I get like 10 hours a week. And that's only because my wife is so generous with watching the kid. Said hi, Mary Murray. Hello, Mary Murray. What could you use the string in the... Oh, I already read that. I need to go get myself a drink of water. Where did I put my water? Oh, huh. Had it right next to me. I've got my chat in view, so keep these questions coming. This is a lot of fun. Where were you when you found out about the Cheiroballistra? I found out about the Cheiroballistra because some guy commented. He was like, hey, have you seen this? And I was like, no, what is this? And like, I Googled it and there was barely anything on it. And then he sent me a whole litany of literature on the Cheiroballistra. And about 9 months later, here we are. I'm building a Cheiroballistra because of a YouTube comment. 293. Oh, I keep forgetting to unclamp before I... A warrior can easily run 150 meters in 30 seconds, which is under 1 minute. So the reload must... Oh, that's a good way to look at it. That's like the, what's the 21-foot rule? The ancient 21-foot rule. Now that we're a couple chords in, I'm getting some hand movements down. My pin just fell out. That's frustrating. This is going a lot smoother. Got a long way to go. What do you think about Hambao troops? What are those? Enlighten me, please, dear viewer. The thing about history is, I say this a lot, you can only know a little bit about a little bit. Okay, just said this was going smoothly and now I'm fighting the heck out of this guy. There we go. There we go. Composite recurve bows. The recurve bow is like one of the wonders of the ancient world. It goes to show that humans are never lacking in imagination when it comes to creating creative ways to kill one another. I find it funny that ranged battlefield use, using range on the battlefield was viewed as cowardly, womanly by like the ancient Greeks. But I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you? They used slingers just fine. But it was also like, wasn't it like the troops back in ancient Greece had to supply their own materials. So the slingers that were lightly armored with the cheapest of weapons, the scantiest of affairs, were the poorest people. So it was like they were viewed as cowardly and made fun of by the rich people that could show up in their hoplite armor. Greeks had skill issues. Yes, they did. The first time I ever saw a Cheiroballistra was in a book about Rome, and I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was a weird giant box. Now that I know what it is, I look back at those memories and wow. Was it like in one of the elementary school and they have those super cool picture books about history? You know, I hate to out myself as a fake history fan, but I just started reading the Iliad for the first time. By reading, I mean listening, because audiobooks. I like my audiobooks. And yeah, that's very exciting. Hearing all about that is crazy. But I have read a decent chunk of Thucydides and the history of the Peloponnesian War, mostly to do about Plataea, because I did a video series on Plataea. Go watch it. Crazy Siege, Crazy Siege. Perhaps one of the best ever. Hi, Sean. Don't kill yourself. Oh, hi, John. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. John, the guy who just commented, he helped me a ton with this Cheiroballistra. He showed me how to 3D model using SolidWorks, and I actually made a working 3D model of the Cheiroballistra that's available now on my Ko-Fi. Coffee, if you want to buy 3D plans with annotated drawings and measurements so you can build your own Cheiroballistra in your garage and go through this same process that I'm going through right now. I know, that's unbelievable. If that interests you, or if you just want to support me, I also have it for the gastrophetus, and there's more coming soon. Keep on the lookout for that. It was a general book for kids and young people from a famous German brand called Was ist was? What is what? Fun fact, I took German in high school, Deutsche in high school. Took German or college German in high school, but I failed my college credit test because I played too much League of Legends. That League of Legends will get you. And now League of Legends Classic is out, so I have to fight against that as well. It's a bad time. My tuning app freeze? Oh, there it goes. Starting to get an ear for this. Toot my ballista by ear like the pros. Are you from Germany? Germania. I'm so jealous of you European people, because you try talking to someone about Roman history or ancient siege engines in America, and they're like, they just start talking about medieval times and trebuchets, and they give you that NPC stare. They're just like, what are you on about, bro? And you're just like, I need someone to understand me, please. Nobody does. Nobody gets it. Maybe I'm just hanging around the wrong people. So do you know the guy, the German Erwin Schramm, who did a lot of work on reconstructing ancient siege engines in the early 1900s? Korean archer trained at 145 set standard distance, and Ottomans used to do target shooting beyond 200 to 300 meters just for fun. This shows the composite bow isn't just a toy. Dude, the composite bow, it's scary how powerful they were. Composite bows are an engineering marvel. Natural materials and the powers that they achieved, and like, could be scaled through the roof for size and power and all the good stuff. Just not as powerful as torsion. Yeah, sinew and animal horn with the wooden center. We only build with the real materials around here. None of that fiberglass bull. Erwin Schramm was like the artillery general for Kaiser Wilhelm II. And he was following in the footsteps of the French, who were the first people to do experimental archaeology in siege weapons, in torsion-based siege weapons since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So it was from like 4 whatever AD when the last ballista, maybe 5 whatever AD, ballista was built, all the way until the 1800s. Brother, the 1800s before we saw ballistae again. And that was the French. And then Erwin Schramm did a ton of work. He built a ton of machines. And I've been emailing a German museum. One sec, I'm sorry. When I start tuning, I have to focus. About him. Very famous guy in the siege weapon world. Isn't torsion basically the father of all cams of compound bows? I don't think so. Torsion is very different than any composite bow, and it's way too complex. Oh my God, stupid. It's way too complex to be really feasible. And so once the Western Roman Empire fell, you kind of stopped seeing torsion being used at all. Until medieval times, and there's the springled. In the late medieval times, but torsion kind of ceases to exist on the battlefield once the Western Roman Empire falls. So I don't think it is. The invention of torsion came with the gastrofetus, which is like, goodbye, fudgy trees. Thank you for tuning in. The Gastrofetis, which was like the original crossbow invented in 399 BC, was scaled up to what was called an oxybellus, and they made as big of compound bows as they possibly could before they reached the limits of natural materials. And then torsion was to supersede that, get more powerful machines, because compound bows had their limits reached. And then compound obviously has its pros over torsion because it's just a lot easier of a mechanism to use, and you don't have to go through this process. I have the fall of Rome was kind of the fall of technology. Go off, King. People don't understand just how devastating the fall of Rome was for humanity as a whole. We have 1,280 pound siege crossbow in the Middle Ages, so they may come close to torsion. Medieval siege composite bows had extremely thick composite limbs, like the Gastrofetis. Yeah, the siege crossbows. Have you been watching Todd's workshop on his like 3-bowed Chinese siege crossbow? I gotta go grab a piece of metal so I can hammer this string into place because I can't move it by hand. And my pins keep falling out. It's very frustrating. Isn't compound the ultra modern bows? With all those wheels. Oh, have I been saying compound versus composite? My bad. I believe compound, composite, are they the same? They can't be the same. Yeah, I think you're right. Compound bows are like the modern day who's a what's its with the cams and the wheels and the whatnot. I think you're right. I saw it. It's amazing. Shoots right through mail and shield and came back out. Yeah, that is insane. See, that thing has so much power because you need to have the bowstring acting on the projectile for a long period of time for acceleration. A lot of those like 1,000-pound steel-limbed crossbows, they have that, like 6-inch jerk, but that doesn't have enough time to accelerate the bolt to its full potential. And that's why ballistae are so amazing, because you can have really long draws with them. So just like that siege crossbow, you can have your bowstring acting on the projectile for a long period of time. My latest video, Did They Use Sinew, talks about this in detail. If you want a more better explanation. Thanks for these comments, guys. This is amazing. This is what I want in life. Where did I put my things? I keep forgetting to unclamp it. It's about the draw length, not the poundage. The poundage only acts as strong as the draw. Yeah. You guys want a change of scenery at all? I don't know how much it matters. Try to get you really close. Sorry for sneezing. The weight of my Cheiroballistra right now, without the spring cord in it, is 19 pounds, basically on the nose. In kilograms, 19 is about 9 kilograms, I believe. 9.5 kilos. Sorry for my American brain. So with the spring cord material, it'll weigh a little bit more than that. But very manageable, honestly, very light. The Thompson submachine gun of World War II. A lot heavier than that, so it's a handheld weapon. You think if like the Geneva Convention existed in ancient times, the Gauls would have been like, the Dacians, my bad. The Dacians would have been like, the Cheiroballistra is too cruel, just like the trench shotgun in World War I. Them going up to Emperor Trajan being like, you can't use this weapon against us. This is too effective. .62 kilograms. Yeah, that's a pretty lightweight weapon. I need to grab a different chair. This one doesn't have enough cushion and my lower back is getting sore. We have a long way to go. That is light. Speaking about modern triggers, right here is a homemade design, and you can see it has a pistol grip trigger attached to the slider. So then this locks onto the bowstring. Then when you pull the trigger, it unlatches and rotates freely, rocks freely. So then once there's no bowstring on it, obviously. Once this slides up to the bowstring, engages the trigger, and locks. Then this would draw back, and then this would latch back here. The lock isn't in place right now. And then when you pull the trigger, it releases. This thing can be operated fully one-handed. Very proud of this thing. This is gonna be, I think, my next project once I'm done with the Cheiroballistra and we get through winter, is gonna be perfecting the handheld ballista of my design with a pistol grip. If only the Romans were creative enough to have a pistol grip. Thank you. It is beautiful. I do think so myself. I built 2 of those. Put them on my channel. Now, if only my channel got views, you know? It's not necessarily about the views. Of course, I wish I had more views so that I could justify doing this full time because I want to do it more often. But man, do I love this stuff. This is a dream come true. Stringing up this ballista, chatting with the boys online. That's kind of what life's about. Being the first person to tune a ballista on camera. I don't think anyone else has done it on camera. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please, I would love to see it. Especially in North America. Imagine someone makes a modernized Cheiro with a modern trigger and a modern stock and then camouflage it. I'd say it'd be better than a gun. See, that's a fun idea for a video. That's just a fun idea in general. Make it out of like machined aluminum and everything, so it's extremely lightweight. I mean, if you have the money, you could use like, what is that material? Titanium. Once I have my full-fledged workshop with a CNC machine and mill and whatnot, we'll do just that, just for you. Better than a gun is a wide margin. The gun is insane. Firearms are insanely efficient for what they do. But this would be pretty quiet when discharging. So we're at like an hour and 15 minutes now. Have about 5 wraps done. Just great progress, everybody. Not even halfway done, really. How's my phone doing for battery life? Not bad. The power of a normal bow is measured in how many pounds the draw is. Do you have any idea of how this will compare to the normal bow? We were talking about that earlier there, John, and the draw weight doesn't usually get measured much on these things because most people care about the energy of the projectile, but I would guess, I'm not doing a full tension right now. I'm keeping it kind of weak just to see if my machine can hold up to the forces. But once this is tensioned, it'll probably be about 60 to 80, maybe upwards of 100-pound draw. But that being said, the Cheiroballistra will have a much longer draw length than your typical bow. And also, the limbs of a bow are much heavier than that of a Cheiroballistra because they're so small. So the acceleration, or the snap, the speed at which the projectile will be loosed will probably be much higher out of a Cheiroballistra than your average bow. So don't let a low draw, potentially low draw weight dissuade you or let you think that it's going to be weak. Andy's Workshop Manu Ballista weighs 10 kilograms. Yours is about 8.62. It's about 1 for now, yes. And I think I have a lot of extra metal on mine. Do you guys mind if I take an intermission to show you my Cheiroballistra, or do you want me to stay on task? I can't show you the whole thing because part of it is in the stretcher right now, but... Oh, that sucks. Stay on task. Thank you. This is the motivation I need. Could a pulley system be not faster if you added gears? I don't know much about pulley systems on bows. I'm just kind of a torsion head, honestly. And I don't know where pulleys would come into increasing the force of torsion. Torsion is already insane. I keep saying insanely, but I don't know how else to say it other than torsion is insanely efficient as is. If it wasn't so complicated to do what I'm doing right now, and the torsion springs are so susceptible to moisture and temperature, nylon cord isn't going to be nearly as susceptible as a natural material like sinew. But if it wasn't as susceptible, I think torsion is by far the most efficient. But all those cams and pulleys of modern bows, I don't know what the efficiency on those are compared to torsion. It's got to be pretty good. Torsion is ancient technology. Might need to get some needle nose pliers quick. Oh, one of my wood pieces came out. Interesting. Oh, that does just float in there. I meant inside the Manu Ballista reloading system. Couldn't you put a small gear inside to boost the speed? Oh, have you seen how a Cheiroballistra is drawn though? The slider is just pushed against the ground. There is no winch on it. You leverage your body weight in a manuballista, that's a cool idea. I like that. So if you used a gear, it would increase how much force you have to put on the system, correct? So would you need a longer lever arm on your winch or windlass, whatever you want to say? To overcome that? A Cheiroballistra with a winch system that is just kind of a manuballista, or every other type of ballista. That's why they kept the Cheiroballistra small, so that it could be drawn without a winch. So we got 5 wraps on it. Now we're gonna start stacking our cord. I'm gonna do 5, 4, 3. In theory, if I can get all that cord in there. A manuballista loaded prone, probably. Cheiroballistra, I'm going to say no. I don't think a Cheiroballistra could be loaded prone. Let's test it once we have this thing strung up. Keep a running list of things I say we need to test, or ideas you guys have, and then comment them on my next video so I can have them for future posterity. I have an idea. You can make a leather... One sec, let me finish this cord and then I'll reread that. What were you saying? Could you make a leather cover made from boil hardened leather which covers as much of the skin and torture as possible and is lined with a wool inside to keep... Oh. Very, very interesting that you mention that. The only evidence, to my knowledge, there might be more, but to my knowledge, of covered torsion springs is the ballistae depicted on Trajan's column. But the problem with Trajan's column is it's stylized, and none of these coverings have been found in archaeological evidence. That has led some scholars to say that perhaps they were made out of leather rather than metal, like you said. And that could protect from moisture a lot more than just being fully exposed to the elements. There's no ancient source for any of that, but other than Trajan's column, so it would be a fun modern experiment to see if it does work. You could also use natural lacquer on the covers to seal it completely. Now we're getting innovative. I like that. I would have to learn all these techniques though, working with leather and natural lacquers and whatnot to be able to do any of that. I'm game. I'm an engineer. What's the German word for engineer? I read somewhere, I don't remember where, but they obviously used artillery on boats. Ingenieur? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. I haven't spoken German since high school. Yeah, that they used artillery on boats, but there's a lot of speculation about. I read somewhere that there's speculation that maybe they didn't use torsion artillery on boats, and instead that's what tension artillery was used for. So the composite bow still had a place on the ancient battlefield even after torsion came about. Because composite bows are a lot more moisture resistant than... I am really fighting this one. I think I'm gonna need to make a tool for this. We were talking about the cord being made of horsehair. They do actually make horsehair rope, which is called mecate. It would be cool to use that to be even more historically accurate. Yes, it would. I would love to use a natural cord material. How expensive is mecate? And where do I get it? In large quantities. I'm glad you actually listened to my ramblings. John Ulrich. Did you hear about the Xanthan Manuballista? It should be an literal Manuballista. Yeah. Oh, the Xanthan Ballista. Oh my God, yeah. I have a script written about just that machine alone, dude. That is insane how well preserved that is. And they've like did all the science stuff on it and found that there was actual sinew cord material. I have a script written about the Xanthan Ballista, but again, it's about time. And if I don't have an editor, so if I record a 15-20 minute video lecture about it, like that's the video I'm gonna make for that month. And maybe it's a good idea to do it, maybe it's not, I don't know. It's tough out there being a YouTuber. That's a one-man show. No, it's a wood box with metal reinforcement. It has metal reinforcement and the wood was common ash. And they found, yeah, sinew residue on the washers. Gotta rectify my wrapping. There we go. Yeah, most of the wood survived. That's the insane part. A lot of our A lot of our intact frames are just the metal bits, and then you can kind of theorize how the wood looked from the metal bits. But this is the wood surviving, which is nutty. It's like entirely complete except for one of the side stanchions. That's like the only thing missing. I mean, other than the rest of the machine, it's just the torsion box, but so yeah, John, if you want to buy all that Mikate for me, I think we only need about 40 feet of rope. 54-yard roll at 3/8 diameter. Do they go skinnier than that? I'm using 3/16. I mean, maybe if I make a bigger ballista, that would work. Yeah, it did look, I see where you thought it was metal because that wood was so dark in color. It looks like a giant padlock in a way. This is the most fun I've had on a Friday night in a long while. Yeah, I mean, the Xanthan Manuballista proves they existed, but the why do they say we need to prove how they were used? Or if they were even used? Are you asking why do people need to prove to say how they were used? I don't know what the question is there. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Can you believe I have to do this on a whole nother spring? A whole nother torsion skein. One thing that's really funny to me about archaeological finds is how they can sit uncategorized inside of museums for decades. Like the, what was it called? It's the one in like Romania. The El Nova. And they just categorized it as random hydraulic parts. Like some farmer found them in his field, and it's just like the metal spring frame of a Cheiroballistra, and it just sat in a museum for so long. That's another thing I'm jealous about those Europeaners. They can just find ballista parts chilling in their farm fields. America, you don't find nothing. Oy, this is being difficult. I mean, do we really need accounts of if they were used? Like, isn't it literal physical? Yeah. The fact that it existed. Why else are they building these things if not to use them? That's the Manuballista, but like the metal framed Cheiroballistra like I'm building, we need to find one of those size. We have found metal frames, but they're all 40 millimeters or more in size. And this spring diameter is 27 millimeters. So to find a ballista that small would be cool. That's another thing. If my YouTube channel is ever big enough, I'm going to Europe. Just gonna go live in Europe and look at siege weapons all day. Just go stare at museums. Stand in museums. Until they kick me out. My phone is nearing the end of its battery life, and the microphone I'm using makes it so I cannot plug it in. So I'm probably gonna have to end the live stream here soonish. Yeah, Europa is full of museums. You could even steal one of their replica machines. God, I wish. Yeah, I've been emailing a German museum. Oh, mistake. I've been emailing a German museum about that Erwin Schramm guy I was talking about earlier. Seeing if I can get them on my YouTube channel. If you know anyone in Europe that knows something about siege weapons and wants to be interviewed, let me know. Send me an email at thesiegecaptain@gmail.com. This is quite a long process. I thought it was overhyped, overblown how long this was going to take, but that 3 to 4 hour range is looking very accurate. But yeah, my phone is at about 10% battery life. So if you have any last closing words before I wrap this up, I really appreciate all the comments. Thanks for stopping by, everyone who did. This was a lot of fun. Should do more live streams, maybe something more interesting other than just wrapping cords. The bundle is looking bundly. The ancients say, though, you gotta put in as much material as you possibly can, and then you're supposed to thread your cord through a metal needle, basically, big spike, and force in as much cord as possible. I'll read it quick. What does Philon say? This vein so, let us now take the inconveniences which occur in the stringing. First, the stretching of the spring cord, which is inclined to tangle, is a long job, because the strands are stretched one by one, and in each operation the whole bundle must be threaded through the washers. When the spring cord has been threaded through and the holes to receive it can hardly take more because they are full, it is necessary to push through the holes round iron bars, which are to smooth and slender at the end. Knock them in with a mallet. When there seems to be sufficient space to take more spring cord, you must continue putting it through. When even so it is received with difficulty, you must take an iron needle and thread the end of the cord through its eye, then pushing the needle itself through, haul the cord after it. When you think the holes are really full, cut off a little remaining spring cord and tie it off. So even Philon, the ancient, says you're going to have to use a metally needle to make sure you are getting this washer completely full. And I keep accidentally wrapping my spring cord material around my stretcher itself. Idiot. I'm going to finish up this one here, and then I'm going to call it a night, gentlemen. So if you have any remaining questions, let me know. Make sure to follow the channel. Many videos coming soon. I'm not ever going to stop, but your support is appreciated. And if you want to support the Cheiroballistra progress, your views are more than enough. Many test videos and documentary style videos coming up about the Cheiroballistra. So keep on the lookout for those. Tell your friends. I really put a lot of work and effort into this channel, and it would mean the world for me if you spread the word of its glory. And with that, so when will we see a full operational Cheiroballistra? Oh, I need to stand up. A fully operational Cheiroballistra. I would say definitely next month. I got to get this strung up. Yeah, I mean, definitely next month. Easily next month, beginning of next month. I'll probably be putting out some shorts of me shooting it, and then the full long form video will probably be towards the middle. What is the next month? It's August, September. Probably towards the middle of September, I'll have a nice long form video on the Cheiroballistra. Here is all the metally bits for the Cheiroballistra. Just chilling here. These are the arms. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. Hope it was somewhat interesting. Thank you. Have a good night.